Okay, so welcome again to another amazing look at a letter of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who over the years of his leadership wrote answers to questions written by people of all walks of life. And he wrote these letters in answer to questions that are very relevant to every person. So the title of this letter is "Woman of Valor." It's basically a quotation from Shir Hashirim, which was written by Shlomo HaMelech, the King Shlomo, um, and it just so it was written in 1975 on 18th of Elul, which is a very auspicious date. It's a very special date in the Hasidic calendar. So that came out on August 25th, 1975. And this was a letter written to the editors of some magazine that was writing about the virtues of a Jewish woman. It was talking about the role of a Jewish woman in the life of a Jew. So he writes, "Greetings and blessings. I am pleased to be informed that you are preparing to publish an anthology on the role of the Jewish woman in the home, family, and in Jewish life in general. The following remarks are in response to your request to comment on this vital subject. In a Jewish household, the wife and mother, in Hebrew, it's called Akeret Abayit, which it means essentially like the foundation of the home. That's what it translates to. It's not a homemaker. It's literally the foundation of the home, and so it's called Akeret Abayit. Largely, so her role largely determines the setup and atmosphere of the entire home, meaning that the Jewish woman's her her approach to life and where she is in her relation to God largely sets up how the whole house is going to be in terms of their connection to God. So God demands that the Jewish home and every Jewish home be quite different from a non-Jewish home, not only on specific times like Shabbat and Yom Tov, which are holidays, but also on the ordinary weekdays and in weekday matters. It must be a Jewish home in every respect. What makes a Jewish household different from a non-Jewish household is it's that it is conducted in all its details according to the directives of the Torah, which is the living Torah, Torah Chaim, meaning that it is the Jew's guide in daily life given by God. Hence, the home becomes an abode for God's presence, a home for godliness, one of which God says, "Make me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell among them." The whole idea of a Jewish home is that when it is conducted according to Torah, the Rebbe says, and in which the husband and wife live in harmony, then God wants to be a third partner in that marriage and wants to be a part of their lives. So if you build this sanctuary, this kind of like small temple, like the temple that existed in Jerusalem, that God will come and live among you. So the Rebbe continues and says, it is a home where God's presence is felt not only on the Sabbath and the holidays, but on every day of the week. And not only when you're praying and learning Torah, but also when you're doing mundane, ordinary things, such as eating and drinking, everything according with the idea and the directive, Noam in all your ways. That in all your ways you know God, meaning that the way your relationship to every activity of your life is infused with godliness. And it is actually in a person's home that you get to really see who the person really is like. And that's how you really know where the person is holding in terms of his connection to God. Because people, when they're outside in public, they behave a certain way. But when they go into their home, they let off their guard, and you really see who the person is. So the Rebbe continues, it is a home where mealtime, dinner, is not a time for indulging in ordinary natural eating habits, but it is a holy time to serve God, where the table itself is like an altar to God. Back in the times of the temple, they used to give sacrifices to God on the altar. So the table, the dining table is the shulchan, which is likened to the altar itself. And that's why we sanctify ourselves by washing the hands before the meal. That's why we make blessings over the food. And then after the meal is finished, you have the Birkat Hamazon, which is the grace after the meal. Every item of food and beverage brought into the home is also strictly kosher. It is a home where the mutual relationship between husband and wife is sanctified by the meticulous observance of the laws and regulations of family purity. Family purity, I'm stopping from the letter, is basically the idea that certain times of the month where a woman's cycle, period, the man and the woman are not able to be together physically. They have to have a distance from one another, and there's a whole process in which at the end of that cycle, a woman goes and immerses herself in what is called a mikveh, which is a body of water, and purifies herself, and then she is permitted to her husband. And so it's a whole process that is very, very key to a marriage. And when it is observed strictly, there's a lot of blessings that come from it. So anyway, that's just a little definition of that. So the idea is that it's permeated with awareness of the active third partner, who is God, in creating a new life, in fulfillment of the divine commandment to be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful and multiply, which is, that was the directive given to Adam and Eve and to the Jewish people, that basically this, obviously to procreate and have children and to have, and so this idea of family purity ensures that Jewish children are born in purity and holiness with pure hearts and minds that will enable them to resist temptation and avoid the pitfalls of the environment when they grow up. So the Rebbe is saying that when a husband and wife, in a Jewish home, decide together to conduct their lives and to really abide by this idea of family purity, then they are assured of having children that will be pure and will not stray and go in the direction of negative influences of the environment that we live in. Moreover, the strict observance of Taharat HaMishpacha, which is family purity, is a basic factor in the preservation of peace and harmony in the home. Peace and harmony in the home between husband and wife, which is vitally strengthened and fortified thereby. Obviously, a basic factor in the preservation of the family as a unit. So it's saying not only it gives you an insurance policy in having children that are going to be, able to be pure and really be able to make it through life in this topsy-turvy, crazy world, but also the harmony between a husband and wife is more assured when you have this setup. As the Rebbe continues, it is a home where the parents know that their first obligation is to instill in their children from the most tender age, from the youngest age, the love for God and also the fear of God, and giving them, permeating them with the joy of performing mitzvah. The Rebbe always discusses this in many of his weekly discourses. He talks about that the greatest the greatest assurance to having children that are going to love God and walk in the ways of the Torah is to be a living example. Meaning you got to not just talk the talk, but you got to walk the walk. And how do you do that? You do that by having joy and excitement at doing mitzvot. Not to say, oh my God, I got to go to synagogue. Oh, what a drag. It's going to be another hour wasted. Why do I have to do this? It's when you show excitement that you want to add in mitzvah, that you want to learn more, that that you're happy and excited about it. Then you have children that want to remain connected to the religion. But when you make it into something that is just a habit, that it's just a drag, then your children are also going to develop that. And no matter how many conversations you have with them that they should do this and you should be really more excited about God, they're not going to be interested, because if they see their parents not having an excitement and love for Torah and mitzvah, then they're not going to do that. So with all their desire, so the Rebbe continued, with all their desire to provide their children with all the good things in life, the Jewish parent must know that the greatest, indeed the only real and eternal legacy they can leave to their children is to make the Torah and mitzvah and the traditions their life source and guide in daily life. This is where, just wanted to add that, I've seen it in families that have traditions and families that don't. Some families, when the holidays come, the kids don't always come. It's not such a big priority. But then in families where every holiday or every major wedding or whatever it may be, bar mitzvah, bris, they always get together. You see that the children are just much more connected to it, and it's important to them because they see the parents make such an effort to bring everyone together, and there's such a unity that everybody else is all connected to it. The children do that, and then they pass it on to the next generation. And this is something that's really, really unique to a Jewish home, the idea of traditions and holding on to them. So anyway, the Rebbe continues, in all that has been said above, the Jewish wife and mother, who, like we said, she is the foundation of the household, the Akeret Habayit, has a primary role that's second to none, meaning if she's not doing it, then none of this is really going to happen. She's the one who's the central person who is setting the tone for this, how this house is going to be. So it is largely and in many respects exclusively as her great task and privilege to give her home its truly Jewish atmosphere. She has been entrusted with and is completely in charge of the level of kosher foods and beverages that come into the kitchen and on the dining table. She has been given the privilege of ushering in the holy Sabbath by lighting the candles on Friday in ample time before sunset. Thus, she actually and symbolically brightens up her home in peace and harmony with the light of Torah and mitzvah. It is largely in her merit that God bestows the blessings of true happiness on her husband, children, and the entire household. So it says in the Zohar, that a man's entire blessings for his livelihood, meaning the money he's going to make, it all comes from the wife. And it says, my friend recently showed me a quote that is found in many places in the Gemara, about how the way you treat your wife is the way in which the respect that you accord to your wife is what influences how much money you will make and how much of these blessings will come. So it just shows to you that whether let's say you're not married, just the huge decision that you have to make when deciding about a soulmate and in picking the wife that you want to be, that you want to make sure that she is on board in creating this type of home, because whatever home she's going to create, that's the home you're going to have. And no matter what you might say and ask, it's really up to her. And if she's not really aboard with this idea, then you may need to reevaluate whether this is the right person for you to marry. And for those that are married, clearly, if you respect your wife and if you show to her that if you live by the way of respecting your wife, then she'll be excited to only add in Torah and mitzvah to your home naturally, because she'll see just how much respect you have for her, and then she'll naturally want to do more. Now, also, it can happen on the converse that sometimes I saw in another letter, it says, don't boss your wife around, meaning don't try to impose on her things that she needs to do in her level of religiosity. You have to let her naturally come into it. But the best way in which you can influence your wife to go in that direction is by treating her like a queen and by really respecting her and speaking to her in a way that you don't speak to other people. She's not like your regular friends. You have to speak to her in a manner that is befitting of a queen and the greatest respect and love and compassion, and listen to her when she wants to talk to you and really be into it. Because you see, your whole home and all your blessings are really coming through your wife. It just shows to you just how huge of a role is the woman in a Jewish home. So anyway, we continue. The letter's almost finished. So in addition to these mitzvot of lighting candles, the Rebbe said that the candles that you light are really the beginning of the Sabbath is coming in through that. So just to show you the metaphor that a woman is the one who's the source of the light that comes into your home. And the peak of the week is the Sabbath. And she's the one who's responsible for bringing that light into the home. So in addition to these mitzvot, obviously there's the challah and others, which the Torah entrusted primarily to Jewish daughters. There are matters which in the natural of order things lie in the woman's domain. The reason for this being so in the natural order is that it stems from the supernatural order of holiness, which is the source and origin of the good in the physical world. We refer, of course, to the observance of family purity, which in the nature of it is in the hands of the Jewish woman. The husband is required to encourage and facilitate this observance, certainly not try to stop it in any way, God forbid, but the main responsibility and privilege is the wife's. Again, the Rebbe is saying that all these very weighty and important decisions are in the wife's hands. If she wants to observe family purity and so on, and obviously the way in which you do is you can encourage it in obviously in a gentle and loving manner. And in my experience, the way to have your wife always be on board in the same direction is it's all by respect and praying to God, because when you have the good intentions, then everything on its own accord works out. So when you encounter resistance from your wife, you should really look into yourself. Maybe you're doing something that is not good, and you need to change yourself so that your wife will naturally want to flow in the same direction. So this is the great task and mission. The Rebbe continues, this is the great task and mission which God gave to the Jewish women, to observe and disseminate the observance of family purity and of other vital institutions of Jewish family life. For besides being the fundamental mitzvot and the cornerstone of the sanctity of Jewish family life, as well as relating to the well-being of the children in body and soul, these pervade and extend through all Jewish generations to eternity. Just so the Rebbe is saying just how vital the role is of the woman for the continuity of Jewish life through future generations, just by all the things that she decides in the home. Finally, it is to be remembered that the Creator has provided each and every Jewish woman with the capacity to carry the most in daily life in the fullest measure, for otherwise it would not be logical or fair of God to give obligations, duties which are impossible to fulfill. So the Rebbe here is saying that, a woman is given so many responsibilities. I personally, in the past week, my wife went out of town and I had the children, and every time she goes out of town, I realize just what an amazingly impossible role she fulfills, and how she's able to do it boggles the mind, because I actually had help. I had babysitters, I had my niece and so on. And even so, I still felt overwhelmed. And it filled me with such an appreciation for my wife that it's amazing. And so the Rebbe is saying here that God gives the woman the strength, the kochot, to be able to handle all these things. Because every moment of a woman's life, when she's taking care of her home, is she's bombarded with different things. There's no moment of relaxation. It's not like us men. We're sitting in, here I am, I'm sitting in an office. If I decide that I want to relax for a minute, I can't. But in the home, a woman has the children nagging, asking for different things. She has no time for herself. It's constant. It's like a 24/7 job. And that's why we need to appreciate the women in our households for all these incredible obligations that they have, and the fact that they're able to undertake them in this way. It should fill us with all the greatest gratitude and respect for them, and to pray always for our wives to always have well-being and happiness, and that we do everything we can to make them happy. So anyway, back to the Rebbe's last paragraph in his letter. The points mentioned above, all too briefly in relation to their vital importance for our people of Israel, individually and collectively, especially in the present day and age, as discussed at greater length elsewhere, should be the objects of intensive and widespread activity by Jewish women everywhere. There is a crying need to bring them to the attention and within the living experience of the widest possible Jewish circles. There can be no danger of overemphasizing these vital aspects of Jewish life, nor of over-publishing on these subjects. Every additional volume, a present one, is to be heartily welcome, and those who share in this effort should be warmly congratulated. The Rebbe is saying that basically this idea of talking about the role of a woman, a Jewish woman, and the importance of family purity are so important that you should tell whoever you know. Let's say you know a couple that it's not, I mean, obviously if you're a man, you should talk to the husband. If you're a woman, you should talk to the wife. Just such a blessing to have a home that is conducted according to the Jewish way of Torah. The blessings that come from that are infinite. I've witnessed it, that families that do live in that way, they stay together. There's no divorces, no adultery. Children they grow up in a way without any deep mental problems, and they just have happiness and the blessings of Hashem. I mean, it's not such a it's not a fantasy that we can have. We can have heaven on earth, that we can literally taste godliness and life in Gan Eden in this world if we live by the ways of the Torah. It's really not a fantasy. It's really something that can happen, and to have the greatest happiness in a marriage and with your children surrounding you. And may we all take that to heart and be able to achieve that. And it takes a lot of work, but it's very much worth it, and it is it's a blessing to all that who try to do it, with infinite blessings that are felt every day. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow with another amazing letter actually we'll continue on Monday. Fridays we are off, with another amazing letter of the Rebbe about so many different topics of life.